Hello everyone. Today let us discuss the topic affirmative action. In this lecture, we shall be talking of the evolution, meaning, and current state of affirmative action in India, limitations, and finally if affirmative action is justified or not. So let's begin with the evolution now. What was the need for affirmative action or reservation as we call in India? See, if we look at history, historically certain communities and certain section of the people had to face injustice. They were not given the opportunities to education, employment, and because of this lack of opportunity, their well-being and standard of living got affected. With the evolution of state and a society to be called a just society, to be called a good society, it has to give equal opportunities for all the section of the people that live in that society. So this affirmative action is a kind of compensation that we as a society pay to the people who have been facing this injustice historically. In India, we know the caste system and its nature, whether be it fixed hierarchies or endogamous marriages, the Varna system, all this had a negative effect on some communities. So these people, they were historically neglected, and as a notion of compensation we discussed earlier, we as a society are trying to make good for the historical injustice, and this procedure, this process is called affirmative action. If we look at a formal definition of affirmative action, this is the preferential treatment given to certain section of people. Why? For the historical injustice that they have experienced, so that they can overcome this historical injustice and lead a life with dignity. So let's revise again. What is affirmative action? It is a formal effort by the government, a preferential treatment given by the government in terms of employment and education for a section of people who have suffered historical injustice, so that they can overcome this injustice and lead a life with dignity. This is a definite definition of affirmative action. Affirmative action is a Western term. In India, we call it reservation. Technically, reservation is also a form of affirmative action. Now, coming to different forms of affirmative action. See, there can be weaker forms of affirmative action, there can be stronger forms of affirmative action. Weaker forms can be something like if an employer or an organization is providing a skill set to a specific group of people so that they can compete and get into an exclusive group. This is also a kind of affirmative action. Person who are having less number of skills, they get trained for that skill set so that the competition between the people having skills and not having skills will be equal. And stronger forms of affirmative actions are quotas, reservation. And only with this stronger forms of affirmative action, they are the most controversial both politically and socially. But how did this affirmative action evolve again? And what principles was it based on? If we talk about the principles, firstly, it all starts with the principle of non discrimination. Even we have it in our constitution. All people, irrespective of their caste, creed, and sex, place of birth, has to be treated equally. They should not be discriminated on based on any factor. And for the purpose of public policy, your religion, your region, all this shouldn't and doesn't matter. So, based on this equality principle, affirmative action takes birth. Because when you say equality, it doesn't mean absolute equality. As Aristotle says, treating equals in equal situations is equality. Treating equals in unequal situations is not equality. Treating unequals in unequal situations is equality. So when we talk about non-discrimination, non-discrimination for equals, this also includes a concept of discrimination, a positive discrimination for unequals, so that they can lead a better life. And if you look at the second principle, this is a principle of equal opportunity. Every person should get an equal opportunity to participate in something. This is called procedural form of justice, because you can't decide the end outcome, but you can always give equality of opportunities, and the outcome depends on the skill set of the people. In this context, Lyndon B. Johnson, the former president of United States, he says you can't expect a person who has been chained all along his life in a jail to suddenly come to a racetrack, and at the shot of the gun you can't expect him to compete with a person who has been practicing daily to win the race, because this is not fair. So if we consider fairness, the person who has been deprived historically should get some consideration, some compensation. The race has to be fair. To make the race fair, he has to get some compensation here. Maybe in terms of the time needed to finish the race, he should get it. It should be less for him. So similarly, if we look at the third principle, this is group disadvantage principle. As a category, as a section of people, as a whole group, they are being discriminated. If we take the example of Dalits in India, they constitute around 16.5% of our population. But if you look at their literacy rate, it is only around 36%. But the general literacy rate of India is around 55%. These are old statistics, please upgrade. And most of them live in rural areas. This shows the historical injustice. So, based on these principles, based on the principle of non-discrimination, principle of equality of opportunity, principle of group disadvantage, we come to a conclusion that in order to make the game fair, the rules have to be tweaked in such a way that every player gets equal opportunity to showcase his skills based on his um, conditions of the society. Now let's come to the second aspect, affirmative action in India. In India, how did affirmative action or reservation evolve? It started with the time of Britishers. In history, you know about the Pune Pact, various roundtable conferences that Ambedkar appeared, how we fought for the depressed classes and everything. So I'm assuming that you know the background. The Britishers did the affirmative action based on two principles. They had vendetta. One is to create balance between communities. So they had proposed the separate electorates, which Gandhiji didn't agree, and based on the Pune Pact, Ambedkar agreed for reservation of seats for Dalits. And the second is because these people wanted to divide. So policy of divide and rule. These people wanted to hurt the nationalist movement of India in such a way that various communities keep fighting with themselves. So this is how, like, Britishers had dual motives for doing everything. And these are constitutional makers understood. So when they framed the constitution, they made it based on the policy of social justice. Social justice is when you give the fair play to all the participants that are in the game. So they included various articles in our constitution which promote this affirmative action, be it 15 bar 4, 16 bar 4, non-discrimination, equality of opportunity in terms of public employment. The article 15 and 16 talks about that. But subclause 4 of both the respective articles talk about the exceptions, where the government can make positive discriminations for the vulnerable section, for women, etc. And even other articles like 46, 330, 332 form the crux of affirmative action in our constitution. Again, there are three types of affirmative action that we can see in our constitution. One is direct reservation and representation. Reservation and representation, be it in terms of employment, be it in terms of opportunity for educational institutions. And the second is in terms of schemes, various schemes for the development of the vulnerable sections. And third is in terms of safeguards, like safeguards of the vulnerable section from oppression and exploitation, like Article 21 against exploitation of labor, etc. And our constitutional makers also granted equal citizenship, universal adult franchise. This way, they made sure that with these procedural aspects of constitution, the historical injustice is removed over a period of time. And if you look at the vulnerable people, in India we also have reservation for OBCs. There we have creamy layer and non-creamy layer reservations, because even in the vulnerable section, the whole section is not homogeneous. We have heterogeneous section in India where even there are better off groups in the vulnerable sections. So those groups are included in the creamy layer and they don't get any reservation. Only the backward of the backward classes get the reservation in non-creamy layer. So this way, the entire base on which the affirmative action is based, we can say, is on form of compensatory justice. It's like a compensation for the historical injustice that this section of people have been going through. Now coming to the next topic, limitations of affirmative action. Every aspect will have the pros and cons, and even the affirmative action, there are various perspectives. In political science, to fetch more marks, in our answer we need to cover both positives and negatives of an aspect. If we write a thinker, we should also write the criticism of the thinker. Only then the answer is wholesome, it's complete. So now coming to the limitations of affirmative action. Limitations means what are the different perspectives the critics of affirmative action hold. One is the market based logic. These market people, what they say is, you should leave everything to the free forces of the market. Let demand and supply determine everything. If you try to interfere and make reservations, they say that you may not select the best person for the job. And they say that this might lead to inefficiency because the best person may not get into the job, and not so uh, worthy person can get into the job, and this leads to inefficiency in the organization and finally to less profits and everything. But there is a flip side even for this. What if the discrimination is profitable for the entrepreneur? In case if the discrimination is going to be profitable for him, then what does these people say? So they don't have an answer then. Then coming to the second limitation, merit argument. Only that person who has the merit should get the result. But if we see, take two-person A and B, A from a higher caste, from a uh, wealthy family, the base at which he starts is totally different from B, who is from a poor family and low caste. So if you take an analogy here, if two persons are climbing a ladder, this person is already starting from middle and this person is starting from down. So taking both as a race, and you can't say that merit will decide everything because the game here is unfair. The starting point of both A and B is different. What this affirmative action does is cover this difference. And if you look at the Mandal Commission in the OBC reservation case, the Mandal Commission has said that when giving reservation, you should make sure that the inefficiency of the organization is not affected. It has put three conditions, and one of the conditions is efficiency. Next, coming to the third limitation, social cost. This set of people say giving reservation to some people will divide the society because the people who are not benefited, they might feel bad, and this might lead to violence. This might lead to adverse reaction politically, and the politics of affirmative action take over the policy. This means politicians, for the sake of their politics, can misuse this affirmative action given for the vulnerable section for their vote bank. So this affects the society. It is a social cost that way. And one more argument is that only a better off person from the vulnerable section corner all the benefit. This doesn't hold in case of OBC where there is a creamy layer and non-creamy layer concept. But in case of um, other vulnerable sections like SC and ST, we observe that a certain group of people in the section, they only corner all the benefits and the remaining section remains vulnerable. So this can be a question too for us, whether there should be creamy layer concept even for SC and ST. And one more argument is that these were supposed to be temporary measures, but because of politics, they have becoming permanent. And there is a flip side for even for this argument. These were temporary till when the injustice would be removed. But since the injustice is still there, it has to continue till the time the injustice is removed. Now we looked at the limitations. Finally, coming to the Conclusion. Is it justified? Is affirmative action, a special concession to a group of people, justified? See, we should look at why we are doing something to decide whether we should continue it or not. Why are we doing it? Because of historical injustice. And is the injustice still continues? Yes, it still continues. And it is a form of compensatory justice. Till the time the injustice continues, the affirmative action should be there. But we should make sure that only the deserving, the most needed, get the benefit. So that way, affirmative action is justified with a caveat that the deserving and the needed should get benefit, not the undeserved and people who don't need it. It is our moral responsibility in that way as a society. So, quick revision. We started with meaning of affirmative action. It is a preferential treatment given to people of vulnerable section in forms of employment and education for their upliftment because of the historical injustice. Then we looked at evolution because of the historical injustice. This is a form of compensatory justice. Then we saw types, which is weaker forms of affirmative action, stronger forms, which are like reservation and quotas. Then we looked at affirmative action in India, how the literacy rates of Dalit, rural backwardness, and promoted the affirmative action so that the constitutional makers put various provisions in the constitution to make sure that there is affirmative action in India. Then we looked at three types of limitations. We also looked at principles on which affirmative actions were based. And finally, we discussed whether it is justified or not. Yes, till the time there is injustice, it is justified. But the deserving should get the benefits. So, with this, we end the lecture on affirmative action. Thank you so much.